Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome back to the channel. Now if you've ever watched any of our live streams, our Real Ops live streams, where we go through all of the operational flight plan at the start, discuss certain things and plan what we're going to do, how much fuel we're going to take and all that kind of stuff, you may have seen me zip through the operational flight plan, highlighting certain things, discussing certain bits, but I do this rather quickly, and the reason for that is just because I've been doing it for a long time, so I kind of know what bits I'm really looking out for. But I did have a question come up the other day to ask if I could go through the operational flight plan and show you what it is I'm actually looking for, why I'm looking for it, and how that can affect the way the flight might progress. So that's what we're going to be doing in the video today, taking a look at a few operational flight plans, pointing out bits of interest, and hopefully this will help you guys do the same when planning your flights. So the first flight plan we're going to have a look at is this one between Manchester and Athens, a nice summer route with summer just around the corner. Now if your operational flight plan created via Simbrief doesn't look like this, it's probably because you've not got the same OFP layout set. On the Simbrief website you can choose any layout you want. Every airline's operational flight plan looks a little bit different. The default one is the Lido layout, but obviously being the orange channel here, we use the EasyJet layout, and this is what it looks like. And I can say as well, if anyone's ever wondering just how close these are compared to the real world operational flight plans that EasyJet pilots get, it's actually pretty much 99.9% identical. So Simbrief doing a fantastic job of replicating that. Okay, so let's have a look at what I'm usually looking for. I don't pay too much attention to what aircraft we're flying. I kind of know that already. We've obviously got our call sign. I tend to have a quick look at the total en route time first of all, just because I want to know how long my flight is generally going to last. And once we've got that, I'm then having a quick look at our payload and how much we are underloaded. So the payload is basically the cargo and the passengers, and the underload is how much space is left. If the underload is 0, that means that we've got a full flight today. Next thing I'm quickly looking at then is what our takeoff weight is, just to see if it is above or below our maximum landing rate. If it is above the maximum landing weight, then I'm thinking if we depart and we need to get back down quickly, we're going to be overweight for an emergency landing, so that just needs to be in the back of my head. If we're taking off and we are below the maximum landing weight, then obviously I can dismiss that and I know we're safe just to do a normal landing. In this case, what have we got? We got 63 tons. Max landing weight is 66 tons. So even if I threw on a little bit of extra fuel, which we'll come to in a bit, I'm thinking we're going to be underneath our max landing weight anyway, so if we need to return, that's not a problem. Next thing I'm looking at then is the cost index, which for EasyJet should always be 4. Not quite sure why I've got 60 selected there, but cost index should usually be 4. The cruise flight level, that become important later when we're checking out the weather. So we're nice and high today, 39,000 feet for a nice longish flight. And then just having a quick look at the trip wind as well, just to see how that's going to affect us. Clearly it's not today, so that's fine. If you've got a nice tailwind, obviously that speeds things up a little bit. But this total en route time does take the trip wind into consideration as well, so don't look at this and if you've got a nice strong tailwind think that that is going to be quicker. It's not. They're both computed together. Next thing then I'm looking at is the maximum shear rate. Now the maximum shear rate here, 5.2, unless it is above 8, I tend not to take any notice. What this means is the maximum shear rate is when the winds will change direction rather quickly, and if it is above 8, chances are you're going to get a little bit of turbulence, and if you're going to get a bit of turbulence, you probably want to let the cabin crew know that it might get a bit bumpy around this particular waypoint. So if, let's just say this was above 8 today and it was going to be above 8 at the waypoint Dodden, I would just be quickly scrolling through trying to find that waypoint, and there it is, and that is 1 hour and 4 minutes into our flight. So you could, about an hour into our flight, sort of tell the cabin crew it might get a bit bumpy around there. Alright, next thing I'm looking at then is quickly, I just want to see what runways we're planning to take off of, which one we're going to be landing on. I'm not bothered about any of this. This is just the flight route. That's all put in there automatically when we download it. So that's fine. Next thing I'm moving on to then is the fuel. So the plan block fuel, sometimes I refer to it as plug fuel, is 9720. So it's just a little bit under 10 tons of fuel. What I'm looking for then next is what is my company nominated reserve. Now the CNR 2.3, basically that is a fancy way of saying that we need to decide which airport we are going to land at by the time we get to 2.3 tons of fuel left on board. We either need to commit to our arrival airport, which is Athens, or we are going to commit to diverting. Now obviously the reasons for diverting, that could be anything. There could be long delays in Athens, a runway could get closed, there could be a big thunderstorm appears and hangs over the runway, and you don't want to be hanging around waiting for that thunderstorm to clear below this 2.3 tons of fuel, because you are then going to probably start to really struggle and you're going to get into your final reserve of fuel, and no aircraft wants to land within their final reserves of fuel. That is, well, that's a Mayday fuel emergency. So yeah, this is the number I'm looking at, and then in the back of my mind all the way through the flight, 2.3 tons, that's my magic number. By then I've got to decide where I'm landing and where I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to get in nice and safely. So with that in mind, that is the plug fuel 9720, but we might increase that. Let's have a look as we continue to go through. Next then, I will sometimes just look through the flight routing, and the only thing I'm really looking for here is the MORA, which is the minimum off-route altitude. If these numbers here get above 10,000 feet, these are in thousands, so that's 25,000, 38,000, 39,000. If any of these waypoints are above 10,000 feet, then again it just piques my interest a little bit, because I know if I had a depressurization around that particular waypoint, I need to be careful. I can't just dive the aircraft down to 10,000 feet. Look, there we go, look at Obidi. So that is 11,900 feet. That is the minimum altitude. So I can't get down to 10,000 feet around here because, well, the Alps are in the way. So a depressurization event at this point, I need to think where we're going to go that's going to keep us safe, and that's about an hour and 40 into the flight. So again, it's just something else to think about. Doesn't last for very long. It's back down then below 10,000 feet. It only lasts for around 15 minutes or so, from 1 hour 40, 154. So yeah, again, just something to be aware of. But as you can see, we've obviously got quite a bit of terrain under here as we get into sort of the Belgrade region. It's higher again here and here, so 2.5 hours into the flight for maybe another 15 minutes or so. It's always worth just having that in mind, because as I say, if you do get a depressurization event and you need to get down, you need to know you can get down safely. This then is probably where I spend most of my time looking focus-wise, and this is the weather. Now, let me just explain what this all is. So we've always got our departure airport, our arrival airport. We've then got destination alternates, so Herculon and others. So the weather here is the worst case scenario weather that has been forecast, and you can see we've got lots of high numbers, and the first number is the ceiling, the second number is the visibility. So if you've got all the nines here, 10,000 feet, that's your ceiling. Basically that's no clouds. You can see there at Athens we're looking to land where a ceiling will be at 7,000 feet. Again, that is absolutely no problem. We're going to be able to shoot an approach without any clouds. All of the alternates as well, you can see all the nines, so the ceiling is not really anything we need to worry about. Looks like a nice clear day down there over the Greek Isles. The next one then is the visibility, and again this is in meters. So these in feet for the ceiling, then these in meters for the visibility. And if it's all the nines, it's basically 10,000, which is 10,000 meters, 10 kilometers or more. Basically, visibility is fantastic, and it's a nice summer's day today. So as we can see, we've basically got no clouds and we've got fantastic visibility. The next thing then is the crosswinds and the headwinds. So this is the headwind. So we're looking to land with this is a tailwind component, and because it's a minus, that means it's a headwind. So we're going to be landing with a headwind of 4.5. That's absolutely fine. And we're going to be landing with a crosswind of 5.4. It looks a little bit windier down here. You can see we'd be landing with a headwind of 14.8 knots. But again, headwind's our friend. So so not really anything to be concerned of. If we ended up diverting here, then we'd actually be landing with a 7.5 knot tailwind. Now, we can do that, that's okay, but it's obviously just something a little extra to think about on your approach. So yeah, that is basically one of the big things we look at is the weather, the ceiling, visibility, and landing winds, crosswinds, etc. Alright then, so moving down then, next thing I'll look at, I'll usually skip all of that. This doesn't appear on the real operational flight plan. This is Simbrief giving you engine performance figures, which you don't have. Pilots will have their sim smarts or other documents for their engine performance calculations. So let's have a look then, because here is the actual METAR. So at the moment, when this operational flight plan was created, we've got wind 0807, few clouds, visibility, and reading METARs. Of course, there's great websites which you can quickly Google and will help sort of explain all of these, but basically I'm just looking for anything out of the ordinary, and there's nothing there. The alternate again is pretty much nothing to worry about. If we did end up diverting to Hercules, then there is a potential for the winds to get up gusting 26 knots between 1200 hours and 1800 hours. That is Zulu time, of course, but given how nice the weather is today, I'm not thinking that a divert is going to happen, and we can get in at those wind speeds anyway. So yeah, good weather today, so not really too interested in all of that. You've obviously got the weather then for our departure airport, but again, good weather, winds light and variable, visibility is unlimited, and no clouds detected. Okay, so next then we've obviously got our NOTAMs. Now, do pilots read every single NOTAM that they get? They should do, but let's be honest, do you? So we've got anything that sort of pertains to the runway and is sort of in bold text. It's in bold for a reason. That's trying to get your attention. So obviously runway 5 left 23 right, links Bravo Papa Foxtrot there, not available. Mobile barriers employed to close the link. So that's worth noting. Probably more so if you're landing than departing. ATC obviously aren't going to send you to a taxiway intersection via any of these. But if you're landing, you probably want to know where you can and can't go. Other little things regarding taxiways closed, but again, just look at the time. So that's actually that's not even going to affect a nice morning flight. That's between 9 PM and 4:30 AM. These times on here are actually local times. They are not Zulu times, so that's also worth noting. Quick having a look at the arrival. There's lots of stuff here, like mobile cranes and stuff like that. Concentration of birds, which I suppose you're going to get this time of year, particularly around the Greek Isles. So yeah, it's basically, I tend to skim through it, and the one thing that I do always look at is anything that has got the runway, because that is telling me 03 left, that is where we are landing. 03 left and 0 right, foaming equipment is unserviceable. So if we end up with something like a landing gear failure, then we probably don't want to be landing here. We'll find somewhere else where all equipment is working and available. Moving on as well, you can see that some Category 2 approaches are not available because it's unserviceable. You can see it there, but that's runway 21 left, and we're not using that today. So again, disregard that. Then when it comes to the NOTAMs for all of the alternates, yeah, I don't read those. I'll read those if we need it, or if we're really bored in the cruise. Next then, we've got the significant weather part of the brief. So we've got the flight route, and then we've got the low-level weather. Now here we've got some icing up to 20,000 feet. However, by this time, we're going to be at 39,000 feet, so that's not going to be a problem. By the time we get down here though, there is a section of icing which looks like it may interfere with our approach. And when I say interfere, all I mean is we're going to need the anti-ice on as we're coming down, so a little bit of extra fuel might be used during the descent. But again, that particularly isn't really anything major. This is the high-level chart, which starts at 25,000 feet up to 63,000 feet. As you can see, there's nothing on there, so really nothing going to affect us too much. Now, if we move down, we actually get on to the next chart, and this is because of the time that it's valid. If I just scroll up a little bit, this is valid at 0600 UTC on today's date. However, by the time we do get into Athens and into our flight, then this chart will come into effect. And as you can see, obviously the sun has been out all day, there's a lot more convective activity, so you can see that there's a build-up of occasional cumulonimbus clouds. Now these are up to 28,000 feet, as is shown just here, this little big band section around there. We're going to be above that, but obviously we're going to have to descend through it, so this is where I wish Microsoft Flight Simulator had a good working weather radar to pick those out, because then it would actually mean a little bit more interesting for us. But again, this is something that you definitely want to look at, because you don't want to be flying through big cumulonimbus clouds. That can be unpleasant for both the passengers and the aircraft. As we are coming down, then perhaps we'll be in this little sector here. If it's got a little number, then it's just telling us that we've got a little bit of turbulence in this sector, going down to about 25,000 feet up to 36,000 feet. I don't think we're actually going to be descending by this point. We might be descending a little bit after it, so we might just get away with that. But again, if we are sort of descending in there, it's worth noting that it is an area where turbulence is to be expected. Obviously, clear air turbulence cannot be forecast, so you're never going to find clear air turbulence on any of those charts. Next thing is the wind page, and all I'm looking for is to see if any of the wind barbs are drastically changing direction anywhere, and it doesn't look like they are. You can have a look, and if you scroll down to the bottom, I find that's the best page to see this on. So these wind barbs, if any of them change direction, that's probably the time where you're going to feel a little bit of turbulence. You can see they do change a little bit around here, and that waypoint, that shear rate waypoint I referred to earlier, is actually between here, so that makes sense. Now, after going through all of that, the burning question is, how much fuel are we going to take? Well, the plan block fuel is 9,720 tons. We've got great weather in Athens. We've got good weather en route. Maybe some sea breeze that might develop that we'll have to sort of dot around and stuff. But there's no real reason to take lots of extra fuel. What I would probably do in this instance is just sort of round it up to 10 tons. But I don't think for a flight that we've just looked at, we're going to need anything more than that. So I've gone through in quite a bit of detail there of the stuff that I look at. Let's move on to another one, and we'll just quickly look through it and see if anything jumps out at us. Okay, so on to the next flight plan. This is Amsterdam to Tromsø, a different part of the world entirely. So same thing, if I'm looking at this, I just want to see what's my payload going to be. That's fine, we're underloaded. Takeoff weight is 62, which is well below max landing weight, so that's fine, not bothered about that. I've got a headwind slowing us down, that's a shame. It's now going to be a 3-hour flight. Flight level 39, that's nice and high, good and fuel efficient. Looking to get off runway 09, good, that's a nice short taxi for the EasyJet crew, and runway 18 at Tromsø. I don't actually know Tromsø very well. It's a new route for the EasyJet team. Let's have a look. So plug fuel is about 8.3 tons. The magic number is 2.2 tons. Will I want to take any extra fuel? We'll have a look at the weather. Let's have a look then, just scrolling down here. Any of those altitudes concerning me? No, they're not, so that's fine. Now let's have a look at the weather just here. This I would just spend a minute or two looking over. So weather in Amsterdam is absolutely fine. Weather in Tromsø, ceiling of 1400, but visibility is absolutely fine. So that's Cat 1 conditions, so we shouldn't have any problems getting in there. We've got light crosswinds as well. Now, the alternate that we've got here, the ceiling is 800 feet. That's okay. That is still Cat 1 conditions, so it's valid for an alternate. But obviously, if things sort of got worse than that and they really dropped down to 200 feet, you couldn't use this as an alternate because you need better visibility than sort of an airport that's going to find itself in low visibility procedures. And most airports get into low visibility procedures when the ceiling is around 200 feet, or visibility drops below 750 meters. Anyway, visibility is fine, ceiling is okay, so again, I'm not really concerned about any of those. Let's scroll down, see what else we've got. We can ignore these pages. Let's have a look at the actual weather. So destination weather at the moment, 211, not bothered about that. Visibility is fine. One thing that I will point out, not so much this time of year, but if you have a look at the temperatures, if particularly in early spring and dropping into winter, late autumn, if I see that the forecast for the temperature is if that is 8 degrees and the dew point is also 8 degrees, then I start to think the chances are there could be some mist and fog developing, because when the dew point and the air temperature start to meet, that's when you get condensation, and that's what forms fog and mist. It's not too bad if the winds are strong, but if the winds are not strong, it doesn't blow that mist away, so that can settle over the airport, and that can drop the airport into low visibility procedures. But obviously this time of year, that is absolutely fine. The alternate, again, that looks okay. You can see why that cloud ceiling was dropping a little bit on the above weather chart, and that is because you can just see it's looking at these figures just here, overcast 700 feet. Look there, that's what it was alluding to. But other than that, that's okay. And then we've got Schiphol, which has got a whole host of taxiways. So again, if you know the airport really well, you're probably not going to be too worried about this. ATC aren't going to route you between taxiways that are closed. Obviously, it's probably more important to look at closures when it's an airport you're landing on. But even so, if you're going to be a good pilot, you should probably pay attention to all of these. But I just like to come down here, have a quick look, see if there's anything in regards to the runway, which there is. That is going to be the runway we're departing on is actually going to be closed, but not until 9 o'clock tonight, until September the 28th. That is a nice long closure, so fair enough. And then obviously we've got things like cranes and stuff like that, which sadly obviously not affected in flight sim, so that's fine. And then just having a little look at our destination airport. Taxiway Yankees closed, taxiway between Charlie and Delta. I would have a look at that because I don't know the airport, I'm unfamiliar with it, so I'd want to know where that is and is it going to affect us. Let's just have a look. It's not going to be wet today apparently, so that's okay. And there's nothing with regards to the airport runways or anything like that. You might see some of this occasionally, circling obstacle clearance height. Don't need to worry about that because this is for general aviation aircraft, basically, and we're obviously not flying those. This is quite interesting actually. So destination alternate is ILS 07, periodically unserviceable due to work in progress. When the ILS runway 07 is unserviceable, there's an obstruction on a boat. which is interesting. Wouldn't see that in the sim. But just if the ILS was unserviceable, that was the only way to get in, and the potential for those clouds to drop was there. Remember I spoke at some point about the dew point meeting and the mist coming up, then you might be thinking, well, it might not be the best idea to have that as our main destination alternate, and you might just think in the back of your mind, we might use one of the others as our main destination alternate. That's the flight route. Let's have a look at the weather. This is the low level weather starting at 10,000 feet. Looks like we're okay actually. That period of icing is just staying outside of where we're going, so that's alright. High level chart looks fine as well, and the wind barbs are pretty much all in the same direction. I can't recall if I actually looked at the shear rate. Oh yeah, so the 2.5, don't need to worry about that. Alright then, so what fuel are we going to take? Pause the video, leave a comment down below, let me know what you would take, and then see if we both agree. This flight, even though we've got decent weather, yeah, one of the alternates has potential for the ceiling to drop down, but the weather pretty much is not going to be a factor for us today, so you might think we probably don't want to take too much extra fuel. But what's sort of on my mind is this part of the world, there aren't lots of big major airports, are there? There's also quite a bit of terrain around that sort of area as well. So if I need to get back to somewhere a bit bigger like Stavanger or Oslo, somewhere like that, I probably want a little bit of fuel to be backed up. And I do have the capability to take extra fuel. You know, we can take quite a bit actually. So what I might look at taking is maybe 10 tons, might even up that to 11. It's virtually virtual fuel in the flight sim world. It's not going to cost us anything, but again, it's better safe than sorry. What if something happens and we need to get back to a major airport somewhere for whatever reason? So again, it's just playing the safety game. So yeah, probably take between 10 and 11 tons on our flight today, particularly as we've got the room to accommodate it. One more then before we go. And this is quite a new route. This is Luton to Tbilisi. So having a look at this one, we're not on a Neo this time. We're on an older jet. What a flight time! So I'm looking at that, thinking it's going to be a long day. Nearly 5 hours flight time. And look at the payload. So that is just over 14 ton, and the underload means we have got a full load of passengers today, meaning our takeoff weight is 735. That is well above our max landing weight. So if we had a reason to suddenly return, then overweight landing procedure is going to be needed if we're having to get back quickly. The cruise flight level there you can see is 230. Well, that's not right. That's very, very low, suggesting there's going to be a step climb a little bit later on down in the flight plan. So let's work it through. Shear rate is fine. We're off runway 07, coming in on 31 left, and plug fuel is 15.5, and company nominated reserve is 2.8. Let's keep going through. Have a look at the Mora. Have we got any altitudes that we need to worry about? It's looking good so far. Oh no, there we go. So coming in basically towards our destination, we have got terrain that is above 10,000 feet. So not until the very end do I need to be thinking about terrain. Having a look at the weather, that is all the nines. Ceiling is good, visibility is good. We've got a 10 knot crosswind for departure, but nothing for our arrival really. So that's all well and good. And let's keep going through. Let's have a look at the weather forecast. So this is a little bit later on today. It's basically line variable, cav OK. So that's all great. Let's keep going. This is the no times for our arrival. Yeah, probably, because again, I don't know this airport, so probably do want to have a quick look at some of these that aren't available to us taxiway-wise, so that we don't go the wrong way. And then that's a SID, not available, this one, so if that's been planned for whatever reason, then we can't take it. ATC will clear us instead. Approach procedures, let's have a quick look at this. So due to a misprint on the chart, they've got the wrong altitude in there. But again, nothing there that I'm going to be bothered about reading too much. That is the flight route. God, that is a long flight route. Have a look, see if we've got any weather. That is a low-level chart. Nothing there. This is a more zoomed in chart because it is such a long journey. It's only got half of it on there. Looks like we've got some occasional CBs up to 29,000 feet. So again, weather radar, don't fly through them, and it's worth noting that they are there. And then we've got the wind barbs. Have we got anything that we need to concern ourselves with here? Probably not, because the shear rate was low. And yeah, there we are, and that's the altitude we spoke about a little bit earlier for our arrival. Now you'll notice, remember I said that we've got a planned cruise of 23,000 feet. Obviously we're not going to be doing that. There is a step climb in just here. Now realistically, you don't have to do this. Chances are you're not going to cruise along at 23,000 feet. I mean, sometimes Simbrief spits out some real rubbish, like top of climb, then back down again, and then back up again. So you wouldn't do this. Don't follow that. Basically what you would do is, as soon as you can get up to your highest altitude, that's when you can save yourself some fuel. And we'll probably have a look at doing a video on step climbs in the flight management guidance computer at some point, just so you know how to do that. Now finally then, with regards to fuel, am I going to take any extra fuel? Well, today on this flight's plan, I actually can't. The reason for that is because we are taking off at our maximum landing weight. Don't know if any of you spotted that when we were going through right at the start. So we actually can't take any extra fuel. If we did have space to take extra fuel, and you're flying to an airport where there's thunderstorms reported, or it's an airport in low visibility conditions, so the airport is working much slower, then yeah, you would always take extra fuel. And if we just quickly go back to one of our earlier flight plans, then this is the one for Athens. So obviously we're underloaded, and let's just imagine that there's going to be terrible thunderstorms over Athens and we could end up being held. So in that situation where there's thunderstorms predicted, you want to take a bucket load of extra fuel, because everyone is going to end up holding, maybe diverted, then aircraft are going to be fighting for positions into airports, and you don't want to be left with no fuel to weather that storm. So in terms of what extra fuel can you take, well, there's a nice little extra column just here, and this is telling us how much extra fuel we can take, and why we would be limited to take only this amount. And that is because if we took over this amount, then it would mean that we would be too heavy for takeoff, or sometimes you see an L there, and it means that if you took over that amount, you would then be landing too heavy. You'd have too much fuel on board and your aircraft would be overweight for landing. So this is a really good column on the OFP to look for when taking extra fuel. It basically tells you how much is your maximum extra fuel that you can take. Never ever take this amount though, because air traffic control during your flight will reroute you around, and you will probably save fuel anyway. So you don't want to take the maximum amount of fuel, which would take you to just your maximum landing weight to get in, because then if you save fuel on your journey, you're going to be overweight when you get there. So yeah, at this point, use common sense and think, if it is a thunderstorm, then yeah, you're going to take loads of extra fuel. You could take maybe an extra 5 tons, so you know you've got plenty to fly around with and get back to somewhere sensible. Weather is usually the biggest thing that affects the fuel that you're going to be taking, and obviously if you've got the space to do so, then it's always worth taking just even a little bit more on normal flights, maybe 500 kilograms, something like that. But of course there are times when you can't do that. So there you go. I apologize, it has been quite a long video, this one, but I wanted you guys to see what it is that I'm looking through when we're doing our real ops flights, and we see the operational flight plan, and I'm literally just skimming through things, only picking out certain bits, but that is everything that I'm basically trying to take note of nice and quickly. Hopefully that's been useful to you. If you have got any questions following that, then please leave a comment down below and I'll come back and try and answer those for you. Hope you've enjoyed the video and found it informative. If you have, please don't forget to leave a like, and of course if you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications bell as well, so you don't miss any of our future videos, and of course those real ops live streamed flights. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next one. Bye bye for now.